morning. What better way to celebrate than a council meeting? All right, we're going to diverge a little bit from our normal schedule. Today we have had a pre-advertised public hearing, the second of two public hearings regarding the proposed courthouse renovation and new annex construction projects. We had that last public hearing on the evening of January 31st, and so to follow up with that second advertised hearing, we'll have that here today. Before we open the actual hearing, though, I want to ask Zach Klutz with Taft Law to come up, and for the benefit of the council, I want him to address one very small modification that was made to the resolution document that was introduced at the last meeting.
Good morning, Council. Zach Klutz with the Taft Law Firm. This is the second of two statutorily required public hearings. Once the public hearing is closed, we will, I think you'll have under consideration Resolution 2023-01, which was introduced at the last meeting on January 31st and up for a vote and possible adoption today. This is your preliminary determination to move forward with both the courthouse and the annex building projects. It's a preliminary determination because if you do make the decision to move forward, there still are authorizing documents to pass at subsequent meetings and another public hearing. So this will just be the preliminary determination to move forward. We will publish notice if it's adopted that it was adopted, and send it to the clerk as statutorily required. The one change that we made from the version that was introduced on January 31st is in Section 2. And in the original version, we provided what we estimated the debt service levy to be and what we estimated the debt service tax rate to be. We've changed that to now include, as opposed to estimating precisely what we believe it to be, we've put in there what the maximum will be, so that it will not exceed this amount, as opposed to us trying to peg it precisely. So you'll see that the change is now the debt service levy is estimated to increase by an amount not to exceed $2,375,000, and then the debt service tax rate is estimated not to exceed 0.01346 cents. So those were the two changes from the version that was originally introduced.
And I guess I would add to that, that part of the reason for that change is we've got two processes going concurrently. One, the finance side, the bond side, and then the other, the construction estimate side that Envoy and that team is working on. And rather than try to make a best guess of what that construction number was going to be when they don't even know yet, we just said, let's advertise at the maximum. We'll adjust accordingly once the construction estimate is more final. So that's the reason for we didn't want to be misleading in any way by putting an estimate that turned out to be too low, I guess is ultimately the objective there. So thank you, Zach.
You're welcome. So in addition to that, Section 2, the Section 1 is simply your acknowledgement and resolution that you've conducted the two statutorily required meetings and that you have decided to move forward with the two projects. Thank you.
Thank you. At the last hearing, and then once previously at a previous council meeting, we had a very detailed presentation on both the project scope in terms of its construction and design, and then also in terms of the financing and how it will be paid for and the impact on the taxpayer. I'm not going to have they're here in the room. We can answer any questions as it relates to any of those topics or questions, but I'm not going to take the time to go through the presentation for a third time unless there's someone here that would like us to. We're prepared to if we need to, but I wanted to be respectful of everybody's time, knowing that many of the faces in the room have seen it twice already. So anyone here want a more detailed explanation before we open it up to public comment, or a detailed description of the project? Okay. So with that, I'm going to open the public hearing now, and I'm going to open the floor to anyone that wishes to speak regarding the project for or against. My request would be that because of our audience that's watching online, if you'll come to the podium so that the microphone will feed into that audio feed, and then also to state your name and address, if you would, to show you're a county citizen and a taxpayer and eligible to speak on the topic. But I'll open the floor now to anyone that would wish to speak for or against. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, it appears as though we have no no people wishing to speak, so I'll close the public hearing. And now I'll bring to the floor here consideration of resolution number 2023-01 with that one slight change versus what we talked about on the 31st. Do I have any comments or questions from the council? Okay. Do I have a motion to proceed?
Motion proceed.
Motion in favor of the resolution, Joe?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a motion by Joe in favor of resolution number 2023-01. Let me read that for the record one more time. It's a long title. A resolution making a determination of need for two separate projects and making a preliminary determination to enter into a lease agreement and authorizing circulation of taxpayer petition and ordering of appraisals. So that is the resolution that Joe has made a motion to be in favor of. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Jeff. Last opportunity for questions or comments. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, that motion carries 7-0. And I think Britt has the original that she'd like signed, so we'll pass that down. All right, to our professional advisors that are in the room that were here as a resource, you are welcome to go. You don't have to stay for the rest of this unless you're so inclined. But thank you for coming, though.
Thank you.
Okay, back to our regularly scheduled council meeting. Meeting minutes, we have 3 sets of meeting minutes. I know, Clark, you've probably looked at a couple. I reviewed the ones for the 31st, the special meeting that we just referred to. Did you have an opportunity to look at the January 10
I
and
did
January
read all
18?
of them over again yesterday. And I'll make a motion, first of all, to approve the January 10th regular meeting minutes.
Okay, I have a motion to approve, second by Mike. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0.
We'll also continue on, I guess, with everybody's blessing to approve the January 18th joint executive session minutes.
So I have a motion by Clark for that January 18.
I'll second.
I think I've got Todd with the second there on that one. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. And I did get a chance to review the special meeting minutes from the January 31st public hearing meeting, and because Britt and I wanted to make sure we have some specific requirements about what we need to make sure we show in those minutes. So, and we reviewed those also with Zach and got a thumbs up on that. So they are ready for approval. So I'd entertain a motion for those.
Well, you just made it. so
Well,
I'll-
I'm not
Yeah,
sure the
yeah.
chair's
Yeah.
supposed to make a motion, but
All right.
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I
Go
got
ahead.
Jeff with the motion and Clark with the second
Yeah,
to
there you
approve the January 31 meeting minutes. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Community Corrections Report, Brett Barton.
Morning.
Good morning.
This morning, we had 101 clients on our program. 2 were on CTP. We have 3 juveniles and 4 on pretrial release. Recently, I have volunteered our agency to be audited by the University of Cincinnati. That'll be the first Monday in April. We've been told that these audits are very stringent and nobody is passing them. Some are failing miserably. But I see it as a challenge, and what we can learn from that can only help our agency. So we're looking forward to that. A little apprehensive, but we're ready for it.
What was
last
that
month-
audit again?
It'll be the first Monday in April. I think it's the 3rd. They're going to be here all day. And
You said University of Cincinnati, like
Yeah.
their criminal justice program?
They're kind of the
or-
foremost authority in the criminal justice system and evaluations and assessments. So
Wow.
they've done about a handful around the Cincinnati area. They were looking for volunteers, and I decided to do it. Other agencies are shying away. They just don't want their inefficiencies exposed, I guess. But we're looking at it as a challenge. So
Well, good for you.
thank you.
So your purpose is to see what you might be able to improve?
Evidence-based practices, yeah, we're gonna see if we're meeting all the criteria. Kind of my goal on this is to show them that they cannot compare all agencies as one.
Right.
You can't compare my agency to a Marion County or an Allen County, so that's the kind of route I'm taking on that. So
Good for
we'll
you.
see how that turns out.
Good for you.
Last month, we hit a milestone in our project income. It's the first time we've went over $500,000.
Wow.
So I will be starting the grant process in about a month, and I'll have to put a budget together for the grant side and the project income side. And as an agency, we're kind of throwing out a challenge to help the community in some way. So if you have any ideas that I can bring to my board or the community in a whole, bring it to us, and I'll bring that to my board, and something we'll put in a line item for 2024.
Okay, great.
Any questions?
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
It's really important. You have in your packet the monthly probation report from Nancy, starting out solid with a 0 number for January, so good report there. New business, a couple of items. We have the VOCA position salary change from the prosecutor's office.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Christine Smith. I'm the Chief Deputy Prosecutor here. Mr. Summer would have been here this morning. He had a funeral he had to attend, so you have me instead. The Prosecutor's Office is requesting an additional appropriation, and that would be $3,500 for the VOCA position. This is one we have tried for several months to get a person in that position that is both bilingual, has computer, public skills, and wants to work with victims. We've had a difficult time filling this position. We do finally have somebody who is able to come in, fill the position, but we are looking for a little additional money to get her salary so that we can made it worthwhile for her leaving, or at least match the salary that she had had previously at her other positions. So that is the reason that we're requesting the additional money for this position. They're also in charge of writing our grant money and everything for that job, so we get money coming in as well. So, do you have questions?
The VOCA position, well, first of all, review what the acronym VOCA stands for, if you would.
Good question.
Victims of crime.
Victims of crime.
Advocate.
It's for, yeah. The position is, so that they know, the position is for our Victims Advocate Assistance position.
Okay.
This position is funded. We do get separate funding for it. We have to write grants for that funding for that position as well. Part of that is county matched. In this particular case, we did have Zenaida Lovelace, who had been in the position. She retired back September, I believe, and we've been trying to get that position filled. It is important for our office, as much as we deal with people that do speak Spanish. We get calls on a regular basis to our victims' assistance from Spanish-speaking individuals. We need to help the victims of crimes that do speak only Spanish, and it's been very difficult when we don't have someone in our office that is bilingual to do that and to handle that for the victims. They also come to court, sit with victims during court if they need interpretation during the court proceedings to let them know. They help us when we have victims' meetings to be able to speak with the victims, as well as try and help victims find resources within the community.
Britt, what is that position currently? What's its title, or where is it located in the budget? Is that in like 4D, or?
It would be under
Well, because the 4D are always reimbursable at the 66 cents.
it's not in that, it's not
No, the victims,
grant.
Okay.
the victims' assistance is not in with the 4D office.
Okay. Well, I want to know if we were going to approve it, what its current line item is and what it's currently budgeted at, is I guess ultimately what I'm asking, if you happen to know what that is. Because seeing it as it's presented here didn't ring a bell as to where it is in our current budget. I think it's just described differently than what we're used to reading it.
Okay.
So it's not ringing a bell where that is.
I didn't look it up. I didn't look it up.
Yeah.
Do you need the appropriation number?
That would be helpful.
Oh, it's 1000-09, I'm sorry, 1000-909-01-000-13.
Okay. That will let her look that position up. Okay.
For the county.
Is that in the prosecutor budget? Okay. Okay,
It's the victim's advocate, 911.
okay. Thank you. Okay, so that gives you the full context of the request there. So any questions or comments regarding the information you've heard?
Can you remind us what the hourly, usual hours they put in,
This one would be a full-time position.
full-time position?
Yeah.
So what we have is,
Doesn't seem,
yeah, what we have is the county's match.
okay. I'm going, this is not full-time pay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what's the council's pleasure?
Well, I think this is an essential position. We owe this to our community to provide that.
I also think it's very important.
I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion
Support.
to approve that.
Okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Carroll and a second by Clark to approve the request from the prosecutor's office for the victim's advocate position salary increase of $3,500. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. All right, thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming down with that explanation.
Thank you. Have a happy Valentine's Day.
You too. Central Dispatch, year-end report. Good morning.
I had forwarded, I hope all of you have had a chance to look at all my documents I had put together for you for our 2022 review. So we, in 2022, we dispatched a total of 34,309 calls for service, and that is including all police, fire, and EMS that we dispatch for. It was a slight increase of just 1.9, so minimal, over 2021. This year, I wanted to check our traffic stops because we deal with those much like calls. And so across all of our law enforcement agencies that we dispatch for, we had a total of 9,046 traffic stops. So that's still also a lot of, we have to document all of those traffic stops. We run the license plates, we run the driver's licenses, we enter those. So I just thought that was an interesting number. I went ahead, it was a large number, so I wanted to include that. On our telephone calls, our administrative calls were at 38,646 this year, and our 911 call totals were 14,348. So we had a total of 52,994 total calls for the year. Again, we pretty much, these last few years, we are staying at 88% for our 911 calls coming from a cell phone. So, you know, many people are doing away with their home phones and going to a cell phone. So we are able to track those 911 calls. Also, there's a report that I always have to run when a fire department goes through ISO, which is for insurance ratings. There's lots of documents and reports that those fire departments for ISO need from me. And one of those reporting is our ring time, our answer ring time. So I can run a report that tells us that. So at 98% of the time, all 911 calls are answered in less than 10 seconds. So we continue to utilize our Texty. Anyone can text in Indiana. So you can text 911 if you have an emergency. It's a great tool for the hearing impaired. It's also a great tool for when it's not safe for someone to call 911 and place that voice call, you know, maybe a domestic situation or things like that. So we were at 87 texts to 911, and then we can initiate texts from 911, and that was at 1,230. And a lot of times we use those for these cell phone hang-up calls that we get. I mean, believe it or not, we get, butt dials to 911, especially in the spring and summer. Like, you will hear the mower running in the background, you know, the phone is in the pocket, or you can hear someone, you know, and a lot of times, if they're like me, they don't answer. If you call the number back, they don't answer because they don't know the number. So we can send a text from them and just, we received a 911 hang up, do you have an emergency? And they will usually, 9 times out of 10, they will respond to our text. So we still utilize Nixle for all of our mass texting notifications. We really are pushing for people to download the Everbridge app. So it's just another means of communication instead of the text. You can still receive the text, but Everbridge and Nixle have joined together, and they think people get overloaded with text messages. And, most people have apps, whether it's your weather app or news app. So the app, you get all of the same information that you get from our text. So we still are pushing that out. And all of our Nixles also automatically post to our Facebook pages and our Twitter accounts. Last year, our Mevo to-go kit arrived, and that is, Todd and Carol, I know you weren't here last year. We purchased, this is a to-go kit for our telephones. So we have 4 phones. So in the event of an emergency, we can take that kit and we can go set up. We could set up in the sheriff's trailer if we needed to. Coming this year later, when the new police department is open, we will have a room there as a backup dispatch center if we had to evacuate our building. So we could take that and we could start taking our 911 calls and our administrative calls. So currently in place, we are the backup for Boone County, and Boone County is our backup. So if we had something, we would automatically transfer our calls to Boone County, and then we can take our kit and go set up somewhere, and then take our calls back so that we can alleviate that extra work from Boone County, and we can go back to taking our calls. Let's see. Last year, we were scheduled for a total hardware refresh for our Solacom. So that is our phone system, which is our administrative and 911s. And per usual, things are still back ordered. We really don't have a date. So still waiting on that. I mean, our equipment's fine. We've not had any issues with those things. Let's keep it that way. So, there's nothing, unfortunately, we can do about it. So just waiting on the back order of equipment. As I said, we are still planning the 2 positions at the new police department. I was down at the police department yesterday, and Chief Shoemaker is going to get with me for a date so I can go over and at least see the room. And I know that they had a media day yesterday, and I'm excited for them. I was an original police department employee, and I'm excited for them. That's been a long time coming, so, and they're excited as well. We continue our Crossroads GIS solutions, and that's part of in our budget. That was something that we lacked for a long time, of keeping our public safety mapping up to date. And I cannot be more thrilled with this work with this company. They are amazing. We had a lot of changes this year, with such as like the Washington Township fire coverage territory getting changed, and we needed our maps updated so that when we had that call in our computer system, we can rely on knowing who we need to send. And they're awesome to work with. So, and if I have a question, I can call, and they're just great. So I'm excited to continue to work with them and keep them as part of my budget. So it's critical for us. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Senate Bill 158 that was passed regarding public safety telecommunicators. So this bill establishes basic training and continuing education requirements with the state. Before, each agency just had their own policies. So now this Senate bill, so anyone across Indiana, we have certain requirements to meet. We were already ahead of the game, like many other departments. So of course, we dispatch police, fire, and EMS, so we have to make sure we are certified in all of those, which we have been. So there are other requirements, 24 hours of continuing education each year has to be done. We have NIMS training that are required. So in all of these, each year, I think, as you know, I have to report by January 31st to the statewide 911 board. 2 different reports, our fiscal report for the previous year, as well as a PSAP report, and we will also have to report all of those trainings. And in that bill, if an employee does not meet those requirements, they can no longer be employed through the Senate bill.
Is that in this session?
It's already approved and taking place now.
Okay.
Yes, it started this year. The continuing education requirements don't start until next year, but we are implementing them this year.
Okay.
So, like I said, we were already ahead of the game. We were already meeting those requirements, but, it just puts a little you know, extra in to make sure that people are doing what they need to be
Right.
doing. Other than that, you know, I appreciate the staff we have. This last year was the most brutal year we've had. I mean, we've always had, you know, some turnover, but 2022 was brutal. So I'm hoping we can get back to, you know, full staff. We're close. We had one start yesterday.
Okay.
So, but our training, you know, it's 3 to 4 months, and this job is not for everyone. Quite honestly, you know, we're not out there seeing those things that our responders are, but we are the first call. You know, we're the ones hearing those screams on the phone when they find their child not breathing or their loved one. You know, we are the ones giving CPR training, you know, until responders get there. You know, the suicidal calls, all those calls, we take those. And it's a lot. It is a lot. And, you know, part of that, it's not for everyone. It is not for everyone. And it's a lot of mental. I was telling my new girl yesterday, you know, you're going to go home some days and your head is going to be spinning because it's just overload. You know, it's not a physical job, but it is a mental job that I think a lot of times people don't realize,
Yeah.
you know. And so I do want to say, invite, like, Todd, I know you've been down before.
Yes.
But Carol,
I love it.
any of you, Jeff came down, what, a couple of months ago, maybe, a month ago?
A month ago.
Came down and chatted, but, you know, invite anyone. Give me a call sometime. Love to have you come down, see what we do, or, you know, if you have any questions and talk to us. So,
Great.
does anybody have any questions for me?
I have a couple comments.
Yes.
One, I did not realize that you handled those traffic stops.
Yes.
That was new to me, so that's really
Yes,
interesting.
yes.
That's a lot of work.
Yes.
And then I assume with these new training requirements, you're fully funded for anything you need for the
Yes, yes. So we do have a training budget, but the one thing provided to us, so each month we get money from the statewide 911 board. They collect all of the fees from your telephone bills, whether it's cell phone, home phone, those 911 funds, then they get distributed out to all of the PSAPs.
Okay.
So they actually fund a lot of our required training. So all of our EMD, our fire, law certifications, those things, I receive the invoice and then I submit those to the state and they fund those. So they really fund a lot of our training that so that's, you know, another benefit to all of us as well.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
thank you.
Yep.
Well,
Any other-
it's very impressive. I've always been impressed. I've been impressed ever since being on the council with the knowledge and the leadership in our county, and it's just wonderful. And to know that you are going above and beyond, that doesn't surprise me. And I just want to say thank you. That was, thanks for giving the hour to me.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes. All right.
Any other questions? Great report as always. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we ready to move on to old business. February is always a unique month in our council schedule, so for Todd and Carol, and that it's the one month of the year that we have encumbrances on the agenda. And an encumbrance would cover bills that came into any department at the end of December that really is an appropriate expenditure from the December budget of the year prior, but with calendars already flipped, so we kind of reach back into that 2022 budget and pay those bills. So they have through the month of January to get those submitted, and we approve at our February meeting. So you have in your packet a lot of papers that support the different invoices that came in at the end of the year, but what we typically approve is just this front page, this summary page, that details the encumbrances by department and by fund. So I don't want to, we literally have there's a lot of pages.
like
I'm not
80
gonna, I'm
pages.
not gonna go through them all, because they're all very mundane, run-of-the-mill budgeted items, but we need to do it because we've switched budget years. What I will do is I'll just real briefly say that we had $15,413.95 from requests in the general fund, $8,628.36 from the Cume Courthouse Fund, $790 from the Plat Book Fund, $1,177.20 from the Reassessment Fund, $2,291.07 from the Lit Correctional Facility Fund, and $681.42 from the Federal Inmate Housing Fund. So that is the sum total, for a grand total of $28,982 even in encumbrances. I'm happy to discuss any of those if you've had a chance to look through. If you have a question about any of those invoices, if you don't, I would entertain a motion to approve the slate of encumbrances.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Jeff and a second by Mike to approve. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, that moves us then to additional appropriations. So that would be current budget year items that were not accounted for in the regular budget that we need to give special approval for, or additional approval for. And I want to begin with actually to correct an error in the advertised appropriation ordinance. There was one item that snuck on here that shouldn't have been, and so I want to deny that right off the bat so that we, and we got a note about it. It's the, for surveyor user fees, $377.55. That was included erroneously, so if I could have a motion to deny that, and we'll clean that up. Motion by Mike, a second by Todd to deny the one request there. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. All right, sorry about that. So, going to the top, general fund, 2 items. Let me get my sheet out of here. Okay, we received a grant reimbursement of $6,544.51 that will reimburse a purchase made from the commissary fund for protective vests. And then we needed an additional $1,440.58 to finish out the payroll for the utility coordinator position. And that is the special position that we created in the commissioner's office. If you'll recall that last year we had Stephanie Harshbarger do some additional work during that time when she was in that awkward position of running for election for clerk. So that would finish out the work she did for the county there, and she got some really great projects done for us. Accident report fund, $1,651 for a drone repair. This one here, let me give it requires a little bit of explanation. The Cedar County share, it's $55,738.06 from the economic development. This is the PIP budget, and this is actually kind of a correction of an error, correction of a miscommunication, I'll say that. The PIP budget, the way that works is that it's administered by the Chamber of Commerce, by Shan, our Economic Development Director. They spend the money, and then we reimburse for the approved expenditure items that are approved in the budget. You'll recall that their budget's a little over $200,000. They switched accountants, and we had some turnover in our position as John was going out in his end of his term, and we hadn't appointed Todd yet to replace him on the PIP board. So there's 3 months, the final quarter of the year of reimbursable expenses did not get submitted in time to get approved in 2022. So this is actually the fourth quarter's budget reimbursement for to the PIP budget. Okay. Parkview, $12,000. You recall last month we had a pretty generous donation to the gifts fund for Parkview, and we're going to spend a little bit of that money this month. $12,000 for purchase of new mattresses and recliners, and then we received an additional $100 gift from a kind resident, Carolyn Reigel. Cume Courthouse Fund, $1,794.25. This is money the county received from Nickel Plate, the apartment complex across the road. We do the snow removal, and they reimburse us on a cost share basis. Each year, the Local Emergency Planning Committee, LEPC, they receive some monies each year from the state, and each year we have to appropriate those monies into various line items for their use throughout the year. You can see that budget real quickly. Office supplies, $500, stationery and printing, $500, emergency planning, $5,000, meeting stipends, $1,500, training, $8,000, postage, $100, seminars, $500, equipment, $4,692, computer and peripheral, $200, for a total budget of $20,992.63. So this is one that's a little bit off timing-wise from when we do our regular budgets in the fall, but that gives us time to know what the state allowance is going to be for us to have for this year. Board of Health, we have a few items here. $500 to cover the cost for the Apex Security Agreement. $2,000 to cover a claim from Healthy Communities for the annual recognition event. Board of Health has, in recent years, established a rainy day fund, and if they have monies available at the end of the year from their regular tax receipts, they can move it to rainy day to up to 15% of their tax levy. So Rodney's asking to move from 2022 $60,904 to his rainy day fund. And local road and street, $41,000. This is a piece of equipment we ordered last year. It did not get delivered in time, so it rolls to the 2023 budget, so we need to reappropriate that money, $41,000 for a roller. Auditor's office, we have a fund set aside with some funding available for newly elected officials to go to new training to learn about their new positions. We have had some claims on that fund as we've had coming out of an election year, $500 for official training claims. The Lit Correctional Facility, $100. We had some actual scrap that we were able to get rid of as we replaced the chillers over there in the jail facility, so $100 received there. And we also received a refund for the Lit Correctional Facility of $262.42. Surveyor's office, we do this a couple of times a year. We have watershed drains that we administer in Clinton County that have a drainage area that goes into other counties, and so when the portion of taxes collected by those other counties, they forward to Dan to administer that whole watershed, so we receive $532.32 from Howard County for the Raymond Stump drain. Wildcat Solid Waste District, $25,802.17. This is actually a reimbursement to the county for payroll and benefits of the staffing of the director and the full-time employee over there. So that would be benefits, Social Security, perf. Back to Health Department, we have a couple of grants that have carried over and related back to the COVID testing grants, and Rodney is asking that we appropriate those monies for his use in 2023. $12,997.64 for extra assistance for some additional help. $1,100 for Social Security and Medicare. That would expend the remainder of those COVID grant funds. And last but certainly not least, it's the biggest on the page by far, is the appropriation. You'll recall I set the stage in 2022. We did, as a council, vote to appropriate or to allow for $5 million of the county's ARPA money, the American Recovery Plan monies, to be used for the courthouse and annex project. We only appropriated what we needed last year, knowing that the heavy lifting would not happen until this year. So this is making the official appropriation of the remainder of that $5 million, which is $4,576,754 to the annex and courthouse renovation project. And that is your additional appropriation requests for February. Any questions on any of those?
I'll make a motion to approve all those except the one we denied.
Second.
Well, we would be, I guess, approving the ordinance as amended then.
There
With-
you go.
With the inclusion of the denial
Same thing.
earlier. So I had a Clark, and then I'm sorry, was that Joe? Joe with the second to approve ordinance 2023-03. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. We do have, I believe, 3 transfers that require our review and approval. Superior Court, $10,000 from court transcripts to extra help. Superior Court, $2,000 from interpreter to interpreter fee. And airport manager, I'm sorry, in the airport's budget, $16,824 from airport management to airfield improvements. Just those 3. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
A motion by Jeff, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mike, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. As we do the monthly financial report review, we're adding a new one here for 2023, and there's a method to the madness. As we start the process of issuing another set of bonds, we as a county have to be audited, or not audited, that's the wrong, reviewed by Standard & Poor's so that we get a bond rating, security rating. And they have a long list of questions of things that they want to know about our financial oversight and processes and procedures. One box that we could check now that we couldn't check previously was, do we get a monthly budget status report that tells each line item and where each line item stands and its percent expended? So that is in your, it's not in this hard copy, but you receive that in your packet, so now we can kind of follow along as our budget changes month to month. I would just caution you to realize that some line items, like for instance, an insurance premium will come once or twice during the year, and so you don't jump to conclusions necessarily if it shows 80% expended in February. That's just when the premium comes due, but it will give us a much better opportunity to try to follow along as how the budget's getting expended throughout the year. So that'll be a new addition that you'll have starting in 2023 to that monthly financial report. The other one that we've continued to
Can I say
receive.
something, Alan?
Sure.
I was really pleased to see that in our packet.
Yeah.
And I did just glaze through it. There's a lot there, but it was nice to see.
It's a good resource.
It's nice to see the income at the top, which we don't focus on near enough sometimes, I think. But yeah, we have to take all that with caution, but, you know, I think that's great to have that every month.
Yeah, over time, it'll give us more perspective, I
Yeah.
think. And then the other thing in the report is the monthly financial statement that shows the fund balances that we've been getting for quite some time. So I'd like to have the record show that we received those from the auditor, so if I could have a motion that those reports were received.
Motion made.
Okay, a motion by Jeff, and then Joe with the second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Council reports. I know we had a couple of people that attended some things. Carol, I'll ask you if you wouldn't mind starting. You and I both attended the Indiana Commission to Combat Substance Use Disorder session in Indianapolis, and were asked to actually present along with our colleagues from the city. Would you mind sharing about that?
Yes, it's been great. I'm the council liaison for Healthy Communities. Laura Archibald is the CEO of Healthy Communities, and so she's instrumental, along with Brett Barton and lots of other people, on the opioid settlement committee work, and they presented to us, and then they were asked to present to the state. And it was nice this last week when Alan and I were in Indianapolis. Dr. Box called Clinton County out in two separate meetings about our work and how impressed she was with what Clinton County came up with after they spent lots of time deciding what we were doing already, what the gaps were, and who could fill those gaps. And she said, this is exactly what people need to be doing. So it was really nice. Alan and I just went, high five, you know. It was nice that Clinton County was mentioned. And as I said, in two separate meetings, one in a large setting and one in another smaller setting that I was in. So it was great. It's great.
Yeah, and we were asked by I guess the opioid czar that's been appointed by the governor to come down and present on a official basis to the commission, but then they recorded that, and then it was to be distributed or available for all other counties to review and hopefully follow the template that we had set up. You know, I felt a little bit awkward being there because I had done none of the work, but they wanted to have representation from the physical body. And so again, I want to offer my thanks to Brett, to you and Laura and everybody involved in that commission and all the work that you've done. I really appreciate it. We've gotten a great deal of goodwill with the state on the work that you've done, and we're happy to support it. So
Yes, and then that is that settlement money that's coming over the next 17 years, but then there's another $25 million in grant fund that those grant applications will be due soon. And because we were mentioned in Indianapolis, I got a call from Boone County council person who is interested in finding out if there's something we can do together.
Received a similar phone call.
Okay.
good.
So that was nice to hear, so, good.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have anything they wish to share or report on? Okay. We did attend, Carol and I, it was the AIC Legislative Conference, so I briefly share that we attended that and learned lots of great information, made some good contacts. One of the things that I thought was particularly interesting was we heard a report from the state treasurer about some changes he's looking to make with the Indiana Bond Bank. And his statement to the assembled group of county officials was that he wanted the Indiana Bond Bank to not be the lender of last resort for community projects, but the lender of first resort, so that we could take advantage of Indiana's AAA bond rating. And so, of course, that perked my antennas up, knowing that we had a project. And so I did reach out to the state treasurer, and he would like to learn more about what we're doing on our courthouse and annex projects to see whether that could be something we could partner with the state on and potentially lowering our borrowing costs. So those contacts have been made. We'll see what comes of it, but wanted to report that we'd had that conversation.
I'm also watching Senate Bill 4 from the State Department of Health. There is a bill that's going through the system right now, and it has the potential of bringing lots more funds to our county health department and to our county health initiatives. So we'll be watching that, and so I'll be reaching out to have conversations with Rodney about that.
Yeah. Rodney's gonna be able to do some exciting things, I think. I hope. Okay, we don't have any commissioners with us today. They all reached out to me and had, one is at the same funeral that the prosecutor was at, and then we had a couple of pre-scheduled appointments, so we don't have any commissioner report today. Which leads us with department heads. Any department heads need to have time? Rick caught me there earlier, and he has something for our consideration today.
We have a 950 CG loader that we made the last payment on. It's a lease, and it takes a year to get a new one. So I wanted to start now with getting a new one leased, so that when, at the end of 2023, we'll have a loader. So anyway, I have papers drawn up from Caterpillar for another 5-year lease. Annual payments of $54,166 for 5 years. And we'd like to, we have 2 loaders. We'd like to go ahead and do this in lease 2. So we have 2 new loaders. We'll turn the one we have leased in, and the one we own outright, we'll trade it in. So that's what we'd like to do. I just wanted to,
And they are both older pieces of machine. Well, one's 5 years old, one's considerably older, and
One's
we're putting
considerably
a lot of
older.
money into repairs.
yes, and it's rusting apart. We deal with salt a lot, and it's rusting apart, and it's got some other issues that Caterpillar for some reason couldn't fix.
We were looking beforehand, the current payment is $32,000, wasn't that what we determined?
Right,
Rick?
35,000, and it comes out of
35,
local roads and streets, and we have over $1 million in local roads and street right now.
So the proposal would be that one was for $54,000. If we did it times 2, we'd be looking at a $108,000 payment versus the 35 that's in the budget currently. So we would be increasing that budget by a meaningful amount, but he does have a healthy cash balance, and it's there to serve the purpose of taking care of the roads. So my feedback to Rick was I had no objection to him. I think it's wise equipment management.
We can't hardly do anything without a loader.
Yeah. Loading the salt in, loading gravel, loading stone, that's used probably almost every day, isn't it?
Every day, yeah.
So at this point, for him to get into those lease discussions and actually be able to go to the commissioners and say he has the authority, or the commissioners have the authority to sign that lease, he needs what we would call a consensus vote. We can't officially appropriate the money yet. This would likely be a 2024 budget item, but he needs to know that he has the council's support to finance this lease. And so that's what I guess we're asking for the council's blessing today on whether you would support moving forward with the lease for 2 loaders.
I would agree, moving forward.
So would you, let's put it in a form of a
Make a
motion
motion, yeah.
that we would support the lease of
I
2 loaders.
would support the lease of 2 loaders.
Thank you.
Second by Clark, and any questions, comments? Do you want to see the papers that Rick has or anything, or if you'll?
This is the same thing we did with the graders. We got 2 new graders out of the deal, and they worked out great this winter.
That 5-year-old loader, is that worth anything? That trade-in, is that worth any kind of?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
good shape. It's the old one that
Yeah.
probably needs to really go bye-bye.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they,
valued that pretty good.
it should help with the lease payment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Very good.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. So you're good to take that to the commissioners then?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Any other department heads? Rodney?
Got several things for you to sign. Whenever you
Oh,
wanna
yeah,
go.
okay.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Ronnie?
Get this passing out of things really quickly then. Two bits of information. Our annual report as well as two of the grants that we get statutorily through the state that are calendar year grants. So at this time, we're reporting out what the usage was for those two state grants, as we always do. Here to entertain any questions that you may have on any of those. It was a busy year once again, as everyone else alludes to, so. And both of I do want to say, thanks to Britt's office, she did help us, as you say, help audit and make sure after the dust has settled, what monies are still left from COVID, make sure we know what they are, and then help us to properly plan to use those. The two folks who will be utilizing that, we're using one individual who's doing data archiving, who's already working off of a state grant, to come in an extra day of the week to help us get that. She's, like myself, on a short run and is already part-time and retired once, so I want to capture what her knowledge base is to try to get as much of that done. The other monies are being utilized to help extend our immunization clinic hours, which we simply only have a part-time immunization nurse. So we're trying to at least make money available to that. So that's what that grant money has been reallocated to use for. So
Okay.
Rodney, I just wanted to just thank you for that that 8-year letter that you sent us. I
Yes.
sent you an email just,
certainly.
praising you, basically. I've really liked the way that you've talked to us and your budget. You've understood everything. I want to go to lunch with you to understand.
Sure,
Where you've worked and that kind of thing.
Sure.
But, you go back to when you came here in 2015, which helps me out because I wasn't here. And just want to just publicly say, thank you for everything you've done.
Certainly. Well, I
You lead
appreciate
that
it.
group, and sorry to see you start to slow down a little bit, but maybe we'll pull you back in or something.
Well, and
I don't
again,
know,
it's,
but-
you come to a point in life now where you're looking at all great races, eventually come to a point where you're getting to the end. And in the case of what we have with public health, I did want to kind of capture for preservation's sake what we've been through, what we don't want to experience again, and how we had to do certain things to get to where we are to fortunately rebuild in time to deal with one of the larger emergencies we'll probably know for quite a decade's time. And also, as Alan alluded to, with Senate Bill 4 in the works and some sort of an inevitable outcome coming from it, I just wanted to lay some sort of a 3 to 5 year plan out there, capture what institutional knowledge I have and what I've been doing all this time, because we don't usually have the liberty of having a job shadowing scenario where whomever will take that position next, whether it be part-time or full, will have any opportunity to work with myself necessarily. So, and that's a disfortunate part of it, but I wanted to at least capture for the council, for my staff, and also for the commissioners, what that journey's been like for those 8 years. And none of it would have been possible without working with the folks here on the council and the other county offices to get where we've been, which just underlines what we're all trying to say, which is community collaboration and cooperation are key to getting anywhere success-wise. So, but I appreciate, like
Good
you
job.
say, your acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for the benefit of those maybe watching online, Rodney had sent a letter to the commissioners and council that detailed the journey.
The journey,
That
yeah.
the department has gone on over the last 8 years to go from where it was to the much, much better position than it's in today, but knowing we can get still better, and if we get some increased funding through this state focus on improving local health access, that what Rodney's recommendations would be moving forward on things that the county could consider next. And so, yeah, it was fantastic. Thank you for
Thank you.
providing that.
Appreciate it. Again, we're always available for any, input. I certainly know over the next several months, I want to engage the council and the commissioners at some point on what we might be looking at with the implications of Senate Bill 4 and what it means here and versus what it means down here at our level, and try to get a grade card for you to understand when they're talking about these different core capabilities and increasing services, where we're at now with that in Clinton County, where we could improve and where we would think to look to improve, as well as who our current partners are that might help us with all that. So, but again, thank you. And again, it's been a wonderful journey. It's been a tough one, but life is tough. So that's all in the cards, it seems like.
Rodney, I want to thank you for all your work.
Sure.
Too, I also want to commend the council and the commissioners who decided that the health department should move into the Healthy Communities building. I think that partnership has been a great one.
Yeah, we continue to see, not just being in the same building, but we're seeing a coalescing of services that help the community in general. That idea of the one-stop shop with combined clientele that we both share and inevitably see, I'm seeing benefits every day from that collaboration of being in that same building. So I look forward to what we might be able to build in the future on that.
That's right. Good.
Very good.
Rodney and I was on several state committees and out in the field training type environment. And anytime there was a question had to do with health,
He's got the answer.
they'd call Rodney, because Rodney pretty much could quote it off his head or get a pretty simple resource to figure this out. I mean, we've come leaps and bounds from what it was prior to Rodney.
Well,
It's great.
Thank you, Rodney.
I appreciate it. And it just goes to show, we meet a lot of us Clinton Countyans all over the state, and it's always a great opportunity to bring it back here at some point and be able to do good for the community itself. Getting that state opportunity just made a stronger ability to come back here and do things for the county. So appreciate it.
All right.
Good job.
Thank you.
Please.
I can speak somewhat on xylazine. It's a current thing that as a public health threat we're very concerned about. For those who don't know, it is an animal tranquilizer. It's unfortunately readily available. Unfortunately, because veterinary sales don't use it as much, but it has been in the market for years. What now is the threat is it's being mixed in with other and adulterating other chemicals, drugs that are being sold to folks who unfortunately are a group of substance use disordered individuals who are addicted and unfortunately are looking at sometimes having to use several times a day. And what we've got is, we already are worried about fentanyl. But the thing about fentanyl is we have Narcan to reverse fentanyl. With this xylazine, it is not affected by the Narcan. It is not an opioid, so those reversal effects are not the same. And it has similar effects on the body, depressing your respiratory, depressing your heartbeat, depressing any of those auto systems that keep you alive and running, along with what the opioids might do and the fentanyl. So it's the triple threat. And again, if someone adds alcohol to that, that even becomes worse. So it's a big threat right now. It's readily available. I think I saw a case that was in Blackford County. There was an overdose. We've seen seizures of it and tests for it in Tippecanoe County, I believe, already. So it's not as though we can say, well, that's someplace else in this country and we don't need to worry about it. So, yeah, there is a great threat right now because, and from Brett and I's perspective too, our use and distribution and promotion of Narcan kind of undermines that a little bit, because initially people might think they don't want to use the Narcan because of this, but we want to still encourage them to do so.
What if somebody accidentally uses the Narcan on somebody that's actually injecting?
No harm effect whatsoever. And again, as the whole training with Narcan use and distribution is, you should be calling 911 and getting someone en route regardless anyway.
Right.
But it's just an additional threat, it's an additional, I hate to make the equation, but if you're playing Russian roulette and you have one bullet in the chamber, now there's more bullets in the chamber. And with it being readily available and cheap and easy to adulterate the other drugs with, it becomes a high risk that a lot of individuals are going to distribute it before we get a handle on it, so.
Ronnie, do we have any numbers as how much Narcan is being used in Clinton County?
The ones who do the most tracking, that would be Stephen Decker and the EMS. They are required to report how many kits they use on any of their runs.
Because I know we have a lot of boxes around, but
We do. And Laura and the program folks there at Healthy Communities, I know, are tracking those box usages, and they go up and down. We see differences. You know, and the reason we see differences is because the supply of what we see in this city varies from week to week, day to day sometimes. If we get a batch in that is high in fentanyl or high in fentanyl content, or just a higher use or opioid high quality than before, we might see an influx of overdoses temporarily. But we're going to expand, and thanks to the council and the commissioners and the city, one of the uses of that opioid settlement money is to expand where those boxes are and how readily available they are. I know Laura and I have replaced the 2 kits that we have on our building on Rossville Avenue sometimes twice in a day, within an hour or 2 of each other. So, but again, to remove the stigmatism of all of this, we have to be aware as a community that this is going on, that this new threat's out there, and that we want everyone to first acknowledge we have folks out here that will suffer from this, and we need to make sure they're aware so we can avoid that if we can. So they can seek 911 when they maybe wouldn't before, because maybe the Narcan won't fully revive them. Still use the Narcan, because remember, all 3 of those drugs are doing the same thing to the body, so let's try to relieve temporarily some of it, but it won't revive it if they're on the others. So 10 times as strong as some of the other tranquilizers that we've seen used in human consumption. So, but again,
We're at a point we know more about it than the addicts do at this point.
Yeah.
It's gonna come.
yeah, and we're just trying to get the word out to folks that we know about it, we care about you, we understand your circumstances, and you're at risk. You're going to be at risk. So what just seems like a headline to all of us is an everyday situation for those who are suffering right now. So
Anything we can do about it?
knowledge is power. Yeah, until somehow the feds find a DEA and then find a way to control it. It's like everything. When someone finally sees something, they want to abuse it. Now we got to put laws and controls in place somehow to take it out as a threat. And in the meantime, we hope someone doesn't somehow synthetically make it instead. So, but knowledge is power.
It's in Lafayette, it's in Cumberland.
Yeah, it's around. It can easily end up in Clinton County and cause tragedy within a weekend. So we just want. Not currently.
Chris Ward.
Yeah,
working
Chris is
with,
working.
Chief Shoemaker.
Mhm.
I think it's actually ready available on Google Keep shelves.
Really?
It is.
Wow.
Yep. But we'll see if we can. I know Chris Ward and I have been talking about it, trying to get any word out, but we'll see if he's gotten that together yet.
Did we just advertise it?
But again, it's new, and as
Probably not to that
Brett
close.
says, we're probably more knowledgeable right at the present time than those who are unfortunately most at risk. So anyway.
All right, thank you for that update. I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Sheriff, bat and cleanup.
Just a few things, all are pretty good. We're going to work with Community Corrections and Brett Barton with replacing a vehicle for our, one of our jail staff, correction staff that does this paper serving, to replace one of our, I think it's a 2014 Taurus. And we're going to do that with the misdemeanor fund. So look to that. And so that is, I think, a great way and a great partnership with community corrections to get that taken care of and replace that. So that's one of the things. We also have a hiring process that's going on for the sheriff's office. We have the federal inmate budgeted positions that we talked about this for a couple of years, and so we've come to the end of the process. Last process we had, we actually didn't hire anybody from that process because of I guess the scrutiny by myself and the staff that we will only take people that we will, that qualify and actually, get through the process. So with that, it was a little disappointing, but then again, it's not a bad thing to wait and get the best people that are available.
Right.
They can get through that process after all the news and things like that we see lately. I think that we'll be patient and we'll find the right people to fill those positions. And that would include the SRO program at Clinton Prairie, Clinton Central. So 2 positions from there would make 4, and then we have 1 to replace from a resignation in 2022, early 2022, when a deputy resigned. So 5 positions. So that's what we're looking at for this year. So that process is ongoing, and March 11th and 18th will be the physical and written portions of that process, and I'll try and keep you updated on how many applicants. Typically, we average 25 to 35 applicants, which is pretty darn good in this day and age for a community our size. So also, one other thing that I'm going to meet with a carrier, which is the air conditioning refrigerant, and that person, we took delivery of the new chillers at the sheriff's office and had Crane out there this last week and getting everything unloaded and getting placed. But we're going to meet with the carrier representative in regards to possibly an issue that we have to address, and this is new information, so the commissioners really haven't been brought up to speed yet as well. So hopefully it's not additional anything, and that's we're going to fund that out of the federal inmate fund. So it's something that we have to be cognizant of, but I don't think it's an issue that is for us. I think we're going to try and force this onto the people that are doing the work. They came in and obviously did their survey and what they needed and ordered the things. So we can talk offline on that, or if I can stop by after the meeting, we can talk about it. But there is an issue that we're going to have to address, and it deals with line distance and things like that, and placement of the chillers. So
Okay.
we'll get through that. I'd like to take a minute and thank the group that did the opioid settlement, the coordination and getting that done. I'd like to thank my staff for bringing them to light to me that our programs at the facility were taken care of and that we had found the funding for it and there was no need to reach into that opioid settlement. So I'd like to thank Ashley and Kelly, and also our jail commander, Natasha Douglas, and some other folks inside our facility to make that possible, and the time and the meetings that took place and the early mornings and that. And I think that with the opioids and the different things that we're facing, and as what Rodney brought up, that this is all something that we have to deal with, and it's something that at our facility that we have to deal with until we can get them detoxed and into our rehabilitation program there at our facility. So, working with the other partnerships in the community has been fantastic, and with Healthy Communities and obviously the Health Department, Community Corrections. And so it's something I think, that Clinton County has done a fantastic job, and I think we're going to see a lot of things in the future that hopefully will bring down those rates, and hopefully will address whatever comes our way. But I think working together, we can find the answer to all the new problems that come to us. So, but if you have any questions or anything else, give me a call. Stop by the office.
I've got one. You and the matron had made a presentation to us about the SRO program with Clinton Central and Clinton
Yes.
Prairie way back at the beginning, and at the time we were applying for a grant that we didn't get.
Yes.
And so we've pivoted a little bit on how that's all getting put together. I was just wondering, could you make, I'm not asking for another presentation, but could you make us a new sheet? Because we have 2 new members.
Absolutely, and I think we
Just
should
have-
do another presentation
Just run through
before we
the new
move forward.
numbers.
Because we'll talk about the numbers, but we'll also talk about, we've kind of batted the MOU back and forth with, between the sheriff and the schools and for the personnel that'll be assigned, and we're getting, should hopefully, and I hope, and I can't speak for attorneys, they take a little time, But hopefully, by the end of the week, next week, we'll have an MOU that'll be ready to be signed by myself in the schools, and we'll go back over the numbers, and I think that it's an absolutely cost-effective way to get those deputies in our schools.
I just want to make sure everybody on this side is on the same page, because knowing that the grant program's not there, I'm not sure I'm 100% certain on how it all looks now.
absolutely.
So just,
We'll go back over it, and we'll apply for that grant as well again. And, and for Mr. Corey and Ms. Price, that the grant, we were denied the grant for the fact that we hadn't applied for it previous. So we have that, we have our application in, so we should meet there, haven't applied previously, check the box now. So hopefully for 2024, we'll have that ability to apply, win that grant and get those people funded.
Could you wait a minute? I wanted to share with you, I want to say something to you first, but I want to share with you that you might not know about. The Trinity Church on Columbia Street has been vacated by the church, and it now belongs to St. Matthew. And so St. Matthew is working with Healthy Communities, and that will be where all their recovery staff works. So there'll be 7 peer recovery coaches there led by Chris Ward. And they'll have a Systems of Care navigator in there. And the sheriff has said that he would be happy to have some inmates help do the painting inside that building. So I love a community that works together.
Absolutely. We've talked to Chris quite a bit about that, and I know Ashley has had a lot of conversation with the other folks that are involved in that program, and it's like anything. I think we have a lot of people inside our facility that are willing, and they're volunteers, and they want to help because they know the impact that they'll make as well down the road. So it's a part of their recovery process inside our facility to be able to contribute. So
Right.
thank you.
It's going to be a great,
It's going to be
great
fantastic.
facility, has a lot of potential. There's a lot of large spaces. Most of the time when Healthy Communities has, like, for instance, families recovering together, there's a couple hundred people, and there's not very many places they can be. So they can all be there all the time.
On that note, we are expanding, we're looking to hire our JCAP coordinator position. That was funded through the DOC grant and through Brett Barton's board. I have a meeting tomorrow with Mary Kay. We're hoping to bring in Brianna's Hope as another program into the facility for the recovery community. And that JCAP coordinator position will be in charge in expanding those services. We also want to develop a family recovery support group.
Okay.
So we can bring in our inmates' families as well. So lots of ideas. And we will be, that position is open, I believe, till February 24th. We're accepting cover letters and resumes for that, the JCAP coordinator position. And so we're looking forward to get that started.
Yeah.
Great.
For those of you who may not know what Brianna's Hope is, it's a religious-based support group. They meet Thursday evenings at St. Matthew. Started 2 years ago with about 2 people coming, and they now average about 60 or 70 every week. They come for a dinner, and then they have a program in the evening and celebrate their successes. So it's great.
I will say, it's going to be challenging because, as we all know, our jail was not built for recovery and rehabilitation. So we are going to do our best. Our JCAP coordinator is going to have a lot on their plate to make it all work out and fit with everything else that we have to coordinate around.
And the JCAP program, just so you know what it, and I know you asked the chief deputy prosecutor, it's Jail Chemical Addiction Program. And it's one of those things where they wear a lot of hats, but they'll fit all the programming at the jail that is directed towards recovery. They're going to be in charge of it. So, and it's, funded through the Department of Corrections, and it's grant fed, and, so it's going to provide quite a bit, and it's going to provide a lot of direction for our community inside the facility to get them back into the workforce, things like that. And some of those, we've reached out to some contractors, things like that, to get possibly some people in there to teach some trades and some skills. I'm going to try and work with a couple construction companies, and every one of them are dying for, somebody to be out there to help direct traffic, things like that, the laborers. And so we're going to try and work with a couple of different contracting companies that are large within the state, and to get them to commit to coming in and providing some assistance and training and some guaranteed jobs when these folks get out.
Awesome.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time. Sorry
Okay.
to make it so late.
Thank you.
That may have covered everybody. Anybody else need any time before the council? Any other business that a council member has to bring up before the council?
hang around, you got
Yeah.
a lot of signing to do.
Okay.
All right. Well, seeing and hearing nothing else, I'll call the meeting adjourned.
Here you go.
All right. Hey, I'd like you guys to also sign the petition we got to sign for
Oh,
the
okay.
annex project. Let me go get that real quick.
Okay.